Hello, comrades. As you all know, a revolt is occurring across the entirety of the United States in result of a long overdue response to police brutality and other issues regarding the proletariat here. Across the entire country, rebellion is in the air. Institutions in which the proletariat was oppressed are burnt down. To the proletariat, it is being shown here in the US that the bourgeoisie can be overrun. Of course, this will all eventually be defeated in a period of mass reaction, most likely resulting in the US becoming a fascist state, as this is not our 1917, but our 1905. In this recent period, the biggest news coming about is the formation of 6 quote-unquote autonomous zones in Seattle. Now, from what I've seen, these have been founded largely by anarchists and more radical leftists in general in Seattle. Anarchists have been largely hyping it up as anarchism working in Seattle. I find this ridiculous. Not as ridiculous as the communizers who think redistributing food is communization, but still ridiculous. First off, I want to state, I do not see joy in the fall of this. I do not want to see this fall to state repression, as it will only mean worse for those involved. I'm not going to be like Kotsky and go against the call of rebellion like he did in regards to the 1905 revolts in Russia. But the fact of the matter is that I still think it will fall due to issues of handling and a poor understanding of what a commune is. Now, why is this not a commune? Why is it not autonomous? The reason why is that it has no means of sustaining itself. This so-called autonomous zone holds no control of production and the institutions of it, and no means to regulate it in any way, unlike the Paris Commune, which immediately took hold over production and began to pass and execute laws regarding it. This way, the Paris Commune was able to sustain itself. Beyond that, it has hardly any means of protecting itself. There is no indication of militarization by which it would protect itself. In the Paris Commune, the Commune organized an army that would defend the Commune, and beyond that, it had also stripped the police of all political functions and reduced them to mere institutions of community production by the community for the community. They were all under the Commune's control. These functions can also be applied to the people's communes in China during the Cultural Revolution, another type of commune. There is a call to arms, but there seems to be no call for organizations of these arms in a fashion that the capital hill zones could defend themselves, meaning there is no proper militarization. The mere fact of the matter is that this is no autonomy whatsoever, but rather a power vacuum. Leadership also comes into question, of course. Perhaps if they have not fully established the means by which these zones would establish themselves as autonomous, they would have to be working towards it, right? Well, not from what I've seen. The biggest priority to them is the distribution of food and water. Now, of course, this should be a priority, but making it merely this, when there is no holdover production, is ridiculous. Did the Paris Commune not hold production and issue laws that would provide the basis of new power? However, the biggest issue is with the demands, which will be linked in the description. Within these demands, I see nothing but begging to the bourgeois state, demands for change to be carried out by the governments rather than a call to overthrow them. It would be as if the Paris Commune, rather than calling for the establishment of other communes of the same type across France, and the establishment of a new state which all communes would elect to a national delegation, and rather than establish its own power structures with its own programs and laws, had rather begged to the French state to carry out reforms instead. It would make the Paris Commune not an example of how a revolution is possible, but a laughingstock of a desperate reformism. And though yes, these initiatives of the Paris Commune had failed due to their own internal issues, what these demands laid out by the autonomous zone are a step backwards from the Commune. How can these so-called autonomous zones be revolutionary and establish itself as such when it tries to make unprincipled and frankly idealist compromises? One, if unattainable, which it most certainly will be, the zones will have no way of holding itself against the forces of reaction when there is no means of proper organization of production, distribution, and defense, all of which makes an area actually autonomous. So, why did I make this video? It is to show a big lesson that comes from this, that the anarchist method of leadership generally esteemed among many anarchists in the US will not work. I see a lot of celebration of this who do not realize that what they are celebrating provides the basis for failure. The reliance on spontaneity and a horizontal leadership in a measure of trying to bring forth a revolution will result in divisiveness and will have no means of actually gaining hold of production. The simple lesson to learn is that anarchism is not efficient in its pure form of actually establishing this, unless those under the umbrella of anarchism actually deviate from these principles and establish power structures which cannot comply with the thought of anarchism. And even then, the reliance upon spontaneity and instability of leadership, which will result from lack of democratic centralism, will still plague any attempt at this. The only solution to this issue is not with anarchism, but with Marxism, Leninism, Maoism. Rather than bowing to spontaneity and trying to work within a power vacuum without any form of proper leadership, we should instead seek to put organization before spontaneity in order to wage a protracted people's war. We must seek to build the three instruments of revolution, those being the Communist Party, People's Army, and United Front, and from that work among the masses to overthrow the bourgeoisie and establish a means of new power, a new power which will become a dictatorship of the proletariat. I use this as a lesson to anarchists who may uphold this commune as an example of anarchism working. Rather, it is an example of anarchism unable to hold a grasp on the situation. Though I do not want to see it happen, this will either fall to instability or state repression, and the forces of reaction will once again lay siege on what was once theirs. And may those who lay witness see that our solution should rather not be vold-faced notions of autonomy, but people's war and the dictatorship of the proletariat. Thank you for watching. If you may wish to learn more on MLM and the international communist movement, I suggest taking a look at the links in the description below. I also run a Discord server for this purpose. If you wish to join, I suggest emailing me for the link. See you next time, comrades.